The worst part wasn't watching my sister slip my engagement ring onto her finger. It wasn't even hearing my mother say, "Daisy deserves this chance at happiness." The worst part was realizing they'd planned it all along and I'd been invisible enough that they thought I'd never notice. I stood in the doorway of our family dining room, watching them toast to the surprise engagement with champagne I'd bought for my own celebration 2 weeks earlier. My former fiancé couldn't even look at me. Daisy wore my grandmother's pearl earrings, the ones I'd specifically asked to borrow for our wedding. And my mother, she was taking pictures like this was the most natural thing in the world. "Rose, honey, come congratulate your sister," she called out, not bothering to look in my direction. Like I was staff, like I was supposed to serve happiness to everyone else and be grateful for the scraps. "My name is Rose. I'm 31 years old." And I finally understood what silence could do. Growing up, my mother had a phrase she'd repeat whenever life got unfair: "Rose is stronger. She can handle it." When Daisy threw tantrums, I got the smaller bedroom so she could have the princess room with the bay window. When Daisy failed her driving test 3 times, I gave her my car and took the bus to community college. When Daisy couldn't keep a job, I covered her rent while working 2 shifts at the hospital. "You're just more capable," Mom would say, like being reliable was some kind of personality flaw. "Daisy needs more support. You've always been independent." Independent. That was their code word for doesn't deserve help. When I brought Marcus home for the first time, I should have seen it coming. Daisy emerged from her room in a sundress I'd never seen before, suddenly interested in every word he said about his construction business. Mom practically pushed them together on the couch while I made dinner. "Daisy's been so lonely lately," she announced at the table. "Rose, you're lucky to be so comfortable with yourself. Not everyone finds relationships as easy as you do." I watched Daisy laugh at Marcus's jokes, the same jokes she'd rolled her eyes at when I'd told them the week before. She touched his arm when she spoke, leaned in close, asked him detailed questions about his work like she'd suddenly developed a passion for commercial roofing. Marcus seemed flattered by the attention. "Your sister's really sweet," he told me later in the kitchen. "And funny, you never told me she was so outgoing." "She's performing," I said quietly. "That's not very nice, Rose. She's just being friendly." But I knew Daisy. This wasn't about Marcus. This was about taking something that was mine. The next week, when I picked up my engagement ring from the jeweler after having it resized, Mom made an unusual request. "Let me see it again, honey. I want to make sure the setting looks right." She held it up to the light, turning it this way and that. "You know, I'm not sure about this size. Mind if I take it to my guy for a second opinion? Just to be safe." Something cold settled in my stomach. "I can handle that myself, Mom." "Oh, but he's been doing jewelry for 40 years. If it's meant to be yours, it'll come back to you. No harm in being thorough." She slipped my ring into her purse before I could object. And for the first time in my life, I watched my mother lie to my face with complete confidence. "If it's meant to be yours, it'll come back." Daisy started showing up everywhere Marcus and I went. Coffee dates, grocery runs, even the hardware store when he needed supplies for a job. She'd appear with some excuse she happened to be in the neighborhood. She needed advice about something. She was bored and hoped we didn't mind the company. "I love how close you two are," Marcus would say, and I'd watch my sister light up like she'd won some kind of prize. She began borrowing my things. My perfume disappeared from the bathroom counter. She started using phrases I used, laughing the way I laughed, even ordering the same drinks at restaurants. When I confronted her about it, she acted confused. "I'm just trying to be more like you," she said with wide, innocent eyes. "You're so put together. I want to learn from you." But I knew this pattern. In high school, she'd done the same thing with my best friend Sarah. Started copying her style, her interests, her opinions. Within 6 months, Sarah had stopped calling me entirely. Daisy had somehow become the more interesting version of me. Mom encouraged it, of course. "Daisy, why don't you ask Marcus about that renovation project? Rose never seems interested in the details of his work." Or, "Marcus, you should take Daisy to that new restaurant. She's been wanting to try it." And Rose is always too tired from her shifts. I began to notice Marcus pulling away. Our conversations became shorter, less intimate. He stopped making plans more than a day in advance. When I asked if something was wrong, he'd deflect. "You're just different lately. More serious. Less fun, less fun." Like Daisy. One evening, Mom took me aside after family dinner. "Rose, honey, I need to talk to you about something delicate. Daisy's never been successful with men. She tries so hard, but she just doesn't have your natural confidence. With Marcus, though, I've seen a spark in her I haven't seen before. She's happier than she's been in years." The words hung in the air between us like smoke. I stared at my mother, waiting for the punchline, the clarification, anything that would make this conversation make sense. "What are you saying, Mom?" "I'm saying that maybe you should consider what's best for the whole family. Daisy's my baby. She needs this chance at love. And you'll be fine. You always land on your feet." For the first time in my adult life, I had no words. None at all. Marcus started working late, or so he said. He'd text me brief excuses, apologize for missing dinner, promised to make it up to me later, but later kept getting pushed further and further away. Daisy, meanwhile, had never been happier. She hummed while she did dishes, spent extra time on her hair, bought new clothes with money she definitely didn't have. When I asked where she'd been spending her evenings, she was vague. "Just out with friends. You wouldn't know them." Mom treated me like a house guest in my own childhood home. Conversations stopped when I entered rooms. Plans were made around me, not with me. When I tried to join their discussions, they'd exchange glances and change the subject. "You're being paranoid," Mom said when I finally brought it up. "Not everything is about you, Rose. Daisy's just coming into her own." But I wasn't paranoid. I was awake. I started paying attention in ways I never had before. The way Marcus's phone was always face down when I was around. How he'd shower immediately when he came home, before I could smell another woman's perfume. The way Daisy would disappear for hours and return with stories that didn't quite add up. One Thursday evening, I came home early from my shift to find Marcus's truck in our driveway, but he wasn't with me. I called his name. No answer. I walked through the house, checking rooms. In Daisy's bedroom, I found a small jewelry box on her dresser that I'd never seen before. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was my engagement ring, but it had been reset in a different style, with additional small diamonds around the band. It was beautiful. It was also completely and utterly not mine anymore. I closed the box and walked back to my car without making a sound. That night, I didn't ask Marcus where he'd been. I didn't ask Daisy about the ring. I didn't tell Mom what I'd discovered. Instead, I chose silence. And for the first time in months, I felt completely in control. If you believe silence can speak louder than words, subscribe to Revenge with Suzi. It helps me reach more people and keeps me going to bring you more stories like this. And tell me in the comments, would you have done anything differently? The family dinner was scheduled for a Sunday evening. I wasn't invited, but I knew about it the same way you know when it's going to rain, something in the air changes, and you can feel the storm coming. I spent that Sunday working an extra shift at the hospital, taking care of other people's emergencies while my own family prepared to celebrate the dismantling of my life. When I finally drove past the house around 8 p.m., I could see the warm glow of candles through the dining room windows. Cars lined our street. Aunt Linda's sedan, Uncle Bob's pickup, even my cousin Jennifer's little Honda. Everyone was there. Everyone except me. I parked at the end of the block and walked back, staying in the shadows. Through the window, I could see Marcus at the head of the table, my father's old spot. Daisy sat beside him, radiant in the dress she'd bought with her credit card 3 days earlier. Mom was holding up her phone, taking picture after picture. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read the scene perfectly. The champagne glasses raised in toast. The way Daisy held up her left hand, showing off what had once been my ring. The applause from relatives who'd helped raise me, who'd celebrated my nursing school graduation, who'd asked me for years when I was going to settle down and start a family. Not one of them looked toward the window. Not one of them seemed to remember I existed. My phone buzzed. A notification that Mom had posted something on Facebook. I almost didn't look, but curiosity won. The photo showed Daisy and Marcus, her head on his shoulder, both of them beaming at the camera. The caption read, "My daughter is finally getting the happiness she deserves. So proud of my girl for finding her perfect match." 237 likes. Dozens of comments. Congratulations. She looks radiant. About time she found someone worthy of her. I scrolled through every single comment. Not one person asked about me. Not one person wondered where the other daughter was, or why this celebration felt like it had happened so quickly. They celebrated Daisy's happiness like it had materialized out of thin air, with no cost to anyone else. But there was something else. When I clicked to see the full image, I noticed the caption had been edited. There was a small pencil icon indicating changes. Out of curiosity, I checked the cached version on Google. The original caption had read, "My daughter is finally getting the happiness she deserves. So proud of my girl for finding her perfect match. She doesn't even know this ring won't last 6 months." The last sentence had been quickly deleted, but not before the internet archived it forever. Mom had written out her real thoughts and accidentally posted them before editing to the sanitized version. Even she knew this was temporary. Even she knew this wasn't about love. I didn't go to work the next morning. I didn't call in sick. I didn't explain myself to anyone. Instead, I drove to the storage unit I'd rented the week before and started moving my most important belongings out of the house where I'd grown up. Birth certificates, photo albums, my grandmother's jewelry that Mom had forgotten to include in Daisy's engagement celebration, financial documents, my nursing degree, everything that proved I existed, everything that mattered, everything they'd assumed would always be there. Daisy called me Tuesday afternoon, her voice bright and artificial. "Rose, Mom's been trying to reach you. We want to take you to lunch to celebrate. I know this must be a big adjustment, but I'm hoping we can all be mature about this." "What's there to celebrate?" I asked. "My engagement. Marcus and I, well, I guess we just couldn't fight what we felt anymore. It happened so naturally." He said he realized I was more his type all along, someone lighter, more spontaneous. "You understand, right? You've always been so serious." She waited for me to congratulate her, to wish her well, to play the role of the gracious older sister who steps aside for true love. "I understand perfectly," I said instead. That weekend, they threw an engagement party. I heard about it through Jennifer's Instagram stories. The same relatives who'd celebrated that Sunday dinner now gathered again to admire my former ring on my sister's finger and toast to a love story that had begun with theft. But I had a surprise for them. 3 days earlier, I'd called Marcus's sister Amy, who lived in Phoenix. Amy and I had always gotten along, and she'd been genuinely excited about our engagement. I told her everything: the stolen ring, the secret meetings, the family conspiracy. I also told her about the video I'd found on Daisy's phone when I'd helped her transfer photos a month before. A video she'd recorded of herself talking to Mom in the kitchen. A video where she'd said, "She's so stupid, Mom. She doesn't even see what's happening. I'm only doing this to prove I can take anything I want from her. After the wedding, I'll probably get bored and dump him." Amy was horrified. She was also tech-savvy, and she had access to the family group chat where everyone was sharing pictures from the engagement party. That night, around PM, Mom tried to forward a voice message to Daisy but accidentally sent it to the whole family group instead. In it, she laughs and says, "That ring finally found someone worthy of it." No one replied. The message stayed there, sitting between cake emojis and heart reactions. Then, at exactly 9 p.m., just as they were cutting the cake, the video went live in that same group. I wasn't there to see it happen, but Jennifer called me 20 minutes later, her voice shaking. "Rose, what the hell is going on? Everyone's freaking out. Mom is crying. Marcus looks like he's seen a ghost. And Daisy, oh my God, Daisy is screaming that the video is fake, but we can all see it's her." I'd sent the video anonymously. No one could prove it came from me, but everyone understood exactly what they'd been celebrating and what they'd been part of. Marcus showed up at my apartment 3 days after the engagement party disaster. I watched him from my bedroom window as he sat in his truck for 20 minutes, apparently gathering courage. When he finally knocked, I let him wait another 10 before answering. He looked terrible. Unshaven, rumpled clothes, dark circles under his eyes like he hadn't slept since the video surfaced. "Rose, please. I need to explain." "No, you don't," I said calmly. "I already understand everything. It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "Daisy," she came on to me. She kept showing up places, and your mom kept pushing us together, and I was confused about what you wanted. What I wanted was irrelevant. I interrupted. You made your choice. Daisy made hers. Mom made hers. I'm making mine. He tried to step closer, but I held up my hand. The engagement is off, Marcus. It was off the moment you decided my sister was more your type. I'm not here to compete with anyone for basic respect, but I love you. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. Daisy admitted she was just trying to hurt you. She never actually wanted to marry me. I almost laughed. He still didn't understand. This had never been about him. Marcus, you were engaged to me for 8 months. 8 months. And it took you less than 6 weeks to decide my 28-year-old sister was a better match. You didn't just make a mistake. You revealed who you actually are. Just then, my phone rang on the counter. I glanced at the screen and answered on speaker. Rose Patterson speaking. Hi, Miss Patterson. This is Alicia from Hartwell and Associates. I'm a senior claims coordinator here. I wanted to follow up on the report you submitted regarding the engagement ring. Marcus stiffened. I just need to confirm, Alicia continued. You reported it as missing from your residence last month, correct? That's right. We've since received photos online showing the ring being worn by another individual, your sister, if I'm not mistaken, and that it may have been gifted without your consent? I never gave it to her. She took it from my room. There was a short pause on Alicia's end. Then, thank you. That's consistent with what we've gathered. Because the item is insured in your name and registered as a standalone policy, we're moving into recovery protocol. We'll contact you if we need a formal statement. For now, do not attempt to retrieve the ring yourself. We'll handle it through legal channels. Understood, I said. Thank you. As the call ended, Marcus looked like he'd swallowed glass. Rose, what the hell did you just do? I kept my voice even. I filed the claim the day I found the ring in her room. Theft by a family member is still theft, especially when it's on public display. He stood there, stunned. I protected myself, I said, the way I should have done from the beginning. He left without another word. 20 minutes later, Daisy called, hysterical. You psycho bitch. How could you call the insurance company? They're saying I could be charged for fraud, that I might have to return the ring or face legal action. Then return what isn't yours, I said, and hung up. Mom called next, then Aunt Linda, then Uncle Bob, all of them begging me to fix this, to think about the family, to be reasonable. I didn't take any of their calls. I'd been reasonable for 31 years. I was done. 2 weeks passed before I saw any of them again. I'd taken time off work, blocked most numbers, and stayed quiet. I spent my mornings walking around the lake near my new place and my evenings reading in complete silence. No notifications, no noise, no explanations. Just peace. Then one afternoon, I got a message from Jennifer. You might want to come by. They're packing things from Mom's house. It's tense. I didn't reply. But a part of me wanted to see for myself, not out of curiosity, but closure. When I pulled up, I stayed in the car for a while, watching the scene unfold. Daisy was on the front lawn, arguing with Aunt Linda. Mom was pacing by the porch, phone in hand, her voice sharp even from a distance. There were boxes everywhere, some labeled, some not. One was ripped open, revealing old photo albums and costume jewelry, things that didn't matter until they did. I walked up slowly. No one noticed me at first. Then Mom saw me and froze. Daisy turned too, but didn't say a word. Her face was pale and tired. She looked older. You're here, Mom said, like it was some kind of accusation. I'm here to pick up what's mine, I said quietly. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't ask questions. I just went inside, walked to the bedroom I used to sleep in, and picked up the last box I'd left behind, the one with a few books, a quilt my grandmother made, and a letter she'd written me before she passed. On the way out, Daisy blocked the door. You really think you won? She said, her voice barely above a whisper. All this, for what? I looked at her and said nothing, just stepped past her. Jennifer followed me to the car. She didn't say much, just looked at me like she finally understood something. I should have stood up for you sooner, she said. I nodded. We all do what we're taught, until we don't. She smiled sadly. You changed. No, I said, unlocking the car. I just stopped lying to myself. As I drove away, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel victorious. I felt clean, like something old had finally been washed off me. They'd built a story where I was the difficult one, the bitter one, the invisible one who didn't quite fit. And for years, I'd accepted that role. I'd even apologized for it. But not anymore. I'd said what needed to be said. I'd protected what was mine. And I'd walked away not to prove anything, but because I could. They thought quiet meant weak. They learned the difference.